Yeah, I just keep it steady on the magic. Do my thing, I'm healing, it's fantastic. If I fall, rise automatic. You ain't no now, you know. On the one, raise myself like a tree from the roots. West side girl, cause she lit in the coast. East side girl, when she speaks to the roots. Stay 100, cause she on with the truth. Been there on struggle, know that it pass. Only going up, yeah, the pain don't last. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. Yes, take off, take off, take off. Shorty like Brandy, fight like Monica. What you know about her? Baby girl rising, way to the top. Shaking the world, don't expect her to stop. Purpose so great, she get what she got. Follow her step, cause she following God. What you need more, got a heart full of gold. Even at times when it's raining and cold. Ooh, she bout to take off. Ooh, she bout.
What up, what up, what up? It's your girl Hannah, aka Ruta. You are watching Black Men Speak Sundays on the Uprooted Network. And today in the studio, I got my guy Senai with me. Y'all, this brother right here, you might have seen him on the page maybe once or twice. I don't know. I post here and there. If you peep the shirt, you might remember him from Tagaru Rebuild Tigray. We love Senai over here at Uprooted, and we love to go to rebuild Tigray. No, we really do. And so I'm so happy to have you on the show. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. That was a dope intro. She didn't prepare me for that. That was really good. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Let the people know I'm good at my job.
Real good. Yeah, real good. I already told you you were like the took that way to Oprah. So
Hey,
that's not
listen,
an over exaggeration. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying?
I love it because when I say it sounds, cocky, you know what I'm saying? But when somebody else calls you it, it hits
It's real. I
different.
mean, if anybody's watched your podcast, they already know. You know what I mean? Like you are like a super dope host.
Okay.
And in terms of like our little Tagadu world, like you're one.
Aw, I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Senai. I
I had
appreciate
to
that.
reciprocate because you came hard with the intro for me, so I had to give it back to you. You know.
Hey, listen,
But you deserve every little bit of it, though.
thank you. I practice gratitude and all of those things. Like I did, and I because I practice it, like I like to appreciate people around me. So it's very
Yeah.
easy when you looking for things to be good, like to find that right and to like try to speak it into people. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
That's what we try to do. And I know y'all do that with Tagaru Rebuild Tigray, right? Because I think actually that's not where our first connection was. I feel like our first connection was
Uh,
through yeah, you want to tell the story? You go
no,
ahead,
I'm
because
good. No, if you want to tell a story, you can go ahead and tell a story, and I'll correct it as you go along. But go ahead.
okay, he
Yeah,
already
yeah,
coming with the let me correct the energy. No, 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 no.
yeah.
Because I remember distinctly, we were in a couple different advocacy spaces together, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
because you are part of the LA community, the
Right.
Tigray Times, right? That's the other one?
Yeah,
Or
I guess.
like I
Yeah.
don't even know what it is called anymore. But
I mean, everyone kind of knows Tigray Times. It's not like an official capacity. It's more of like just like the Instagram
mhm.
platform. Which like, I mean, I'm off IG now, so I don't even know if it's like still going or if it's still a thing. You know what I mean?
Listen, we love
Um,
take a break.
But generally, like yeah, I'm part of like the LA community, like especially in terms of activism, advocacy, or the Tigray community.
Mhm.
Like I'm at LA, yeah,
Okay, because I distinctly remember I don't know what event we were all trying to plan, figure out. We were in multiple different group chats together, and then
right,
seeing you in DC at the first national protest, I think, whichever
yeah,
one it was that we all went to.
yeah,
It was like DC, New York that weekend,
yeah. It was
and
dope. I met my heroes that weekend.
all of them. Who?
I mean, Hanaruta, like who else?
Stop it.
No, but for real, like you amongst many, like I met so many people that I've seen and I've interacted with, like
Mhm.
for up to that point, it was like months, because it was like the beginning of like 2021, like March
Yeah.
2021, I think.
Mhm.
So up until that point, I've been like meeting all these Tagado online, especially on IG, like
Yeah.
DMing and everything. And it was like, damn, like I get to meet everybody in person.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a cool experience.
No, for sure. But I thought it was funny because, and this is where we're gonna have our differing opinions.
Yeah, yeah,
I saw you earlier that day, and you said hello. I don't know if you're just a friendly guy, but you had said hello at the protest, and I was like, "Oh, it's Senai. Hey, Senai!" Like, because I remember, it was like face name, like I didn't like it. It made sense to me, like that you would wave at me, because like it was that whole experience was jarring because it was like people were coming into real life. I was like, "Oh, you're not on a box and a screen." So that was completely weird, right? Like I was like, oh, I can touch you. This is so strange. Like, okay. So I was having a lot of my own, like kind of just trying to like not even post. It's like post quarantine, like getting it into those spaces again was very strange, right? So then again, when I saw you later that evening, you walked past me and I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, send that.
Bruh.
No, and then you were like, Hannah, what's up? And I was just like, no, don't even play like you didn't see me. Like, are you for real right now? And you were like, no, I didn't think you would know who I was. And I was like, get out of here, Senna. I'm so tired.
Because I literally don't remember seeing you earlier that day. Yeah.
Whatever.
I like didn't. And you know what? There's so much to the story, but I wouldn't even get into all of it because there's like layers to it, right? But like I didn't remember seeing you, and I am like a friendly person, so I do be waving at just like whoever, like just like and it's
the only person who does that too.
Bro, like people do it to me all the time, and I'm like, do I know them, or maybe I said hi to them earlier, and I was like, I don't know, whatever, like just let it go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then later that night when we talked, you know what I mean? Like I peeped you that night, but like literally like I've been meeting so many people, and a couple of times like people kind of like I don't know if this is like an appropriate term, but they like hold me, Like I went and it was like, hey, like I'm Senai, like
I don't think everyone's gonna catch that reference.
Oh, I don't know what the reference is from. I just know that that's what people say. Like I don't even know what that.
It's okay. I get it. If they get it, they get it. That's fine.
Okay. If it's inappropriate, you can edit it out. I don't know what the origins
it's fine.
Phrase,
I just don't think that young people. I just think the 16-year-olds are gonna be like, I'm confused. But go ahead.
I'm 16. What are you talking about?
You're right. Your skin is aging backwards. What you talking about?
Like I'm not. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But like like up until that point, I had like met a bunch of people, and most of them were cool, and like we would talk, and it was like, man, like no, I know you too, but there was like a handful of people like before I met you that kind of like hold me, and they're like either like, oh, I don't know you, or I don't know, and you have any idea who you are, or they just were like not very receptive. I don't know if people were like tired by that point in the weekend. It was like the second or third day. So people might have just been tired of like meeting people. I don't know what it was, but I had a few bad experiences.
Yeah.
So when I saw you, I was like, oh, I know her. Like, you know, but like I didn't remember being in the meetings with you. I just remember you from like from IG, from your podcast and your show.
Mm-hmm.
And like you reminded me later that like, yo, we actually had been in groups together, which I didn't remember.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not even gonna try to say hi to anybody else for the rest of the weekend, you know? Like,
don't try to flip this.
I gave up. Yeah, I gave up. I was like, you know what? Like I'm done. I met enough people. It's cool. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Save myself, you know. But save myself the embarrassment. But then you were like looking at me, and I was like, Hanna Ruta. It's like.
No, I called your name out. I said,
yeah,
you're not
you
about
did.
to play
Yeah,
with
you did.
me.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I was like, hell nah, because we were in 3-hour meetings and you can't go through that shit and forget people.
Oh my God.
But we're not going to talk about that online. We're not going to talk about that online. I'm just saying we have shared some very funny experiences. So I was like, no, bro, like, I know who you are. Like, don't, like, because you know what it is? On the opposite end, what I was receiving was like a lot of people looking at me like they recognize me, but were not like approaching, you know?
Yeah.
And like because I couldn't place them, I'm not gonna be like, oh, hey, you, like, you know, like that to me is strange. You don't do that where I'm from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't. But when you know somebody, it's cool. Like you could be like, what up, my guy? Like, you know, and like, you know, pull them aside. And so I just kind of I pulled one of those because I was like, bro, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy that he's playing with me right now. And I was just like, yo, no, like, no, he didn't.
I went back months later too and saw like the group chats we were in and saw that we had interacted. And I was like, oh, we do know each other. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, and I don't know why I just didn't remember. Like the first thing, like I saw you and I was like, oh, IG, like podcast, you know, whatever. Like, and I didn't think about the meetings, like multiple meetings, like, you know, 3-hour meetings, group chats. you know, like even like trying to coordinate with you on like calendars for the community. Like I was like, dang, like that's her. Like, oh my god. And you know, but you
Yeah,
know,
but that's
I'm
high key a
getting older now,
compliment.
like 19 years old now. It's like over a certain age, and your mind isn't as sharp as when you were like 16 or 17.
You
So
feel me?
that
Okay.
was, you know, yeah.
No,
So
that's okay. We got it. Because we pulled it together, and I think
yeah, we
since
did.
then, it's okay. Because since
I
then
know we're cool.
we've
Like
been
yeah,
rocking. Yeah, we've been
oh
rocking.
yeah,
But it's just
cool. Yeah,
I have to let people know, like, give people a second chance. Every time the first impression isn't it, like it might not be
that's
it.
the fact.
You
That's the
know,
fact.
so but
Yeah,
I had seen you in enough spaces that I could give you the benefit of the doubt,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm glad I did. So we ended up going to like every other protest, and it was
Yeah.
like at some
Yeah.
point, if I didn't see you there, I was just like, oh, this didn't feel right. Like Senai didn't come. Like where's Senai? Like where's like because it's like
That's
every
real. Yeah,
single protest,
that's
like
a fact. Yeah,
it just pop up.
that's
I
how.
turn around and you're
Yeah.
like right there. I was like, whoa, like
And you know what? Like you know, like that group of people, you know, that you
mhm,
always see at every protest, like you said, like me, like yourself, right?
mhm.
Whenever someone isn't, you asking around, like you find somebody from their city, you're like, what happened to so and so? Like, are they
Yeah,
okay? Like,
yeah.
yeah, they're fine. They just didn't fly out. You know, they got jobs or whatever. But it just was like a weird thing because you always expect to see the same people every single protest, and then when you don't, it's just like a weird, you know what I mean? Like a weird feeling.
It throws it off, and so,
Yeah,
like, that's how I remember the year. I'm like, "Which
yeah,
protest was that? Which city were we in?" Because we
yeah,
were literally just traveling, and,
yeah,
like, it was just so much, and I just remember, like, okay, like, at one point, I was just like, "Man," I think I told you in DC, the last protest,
yeah,
I was like, at the one year, I was like, "Bro, one, I can't do this no more. My body is just not
yeah,
here for that. Like,
yeah,
we can't travel at that pace." And so we both took a break at the same time, right? I think everyone
yeah,
did. The 1 year mark, we were all just like, "Yo, we all need a break," and everyone's been
yeah,
kind of like the winter, just kind of recuperating and whatever. And I told you, I was like, "Senai, like you just have like a really great energy. Like I'm so happy like you came around. Like, I was like, when I see you at protests, like I just feel better. Like, like it feels like it's better. And you were just like, thank you. Like it was just like the cutest, it's like the cutest little moment. And I just was like, I had to bring that here because part of like what we're doing with the season and
yeah,
and talking to all of you is just like really trying to understand how we get to be the people we are, right? Like what does
yeah,
that journey look like for us? And I've always been fascinated, and I got to like know a little bit about your story of like where you're actually originally from Chicago and kind of like that jump that you made, and then how you got into Tagadu rebuild Tigray and like your ultimate kind of goals of where you want to be. And I was just like, bro, he's so dope, and he's actually good people. Like you're always good energy when you're around. And I said, I want to bring him on because I think there's something worth sharing there, right? So I didn't want to get too much of your journey away, but
yeah,
that I'm so interested to know, like, before we connected with all this Tigray genocide related like advocacy, you were out in LA, kind of
yeah,
like living your life, doing your thing, right?
yeah.
Like you were
Oh,
charting a path, you had some goals. Can you kind of like talk about that? Because I think that's super dope.
yeah, definitely. And I won't go back too far away, but like you said, I'm from Chicago, right? Like I was born and raised Decky, Chicago, right? Like
Okay.
don't get it twisted. Like I'm in LA, but I'm not from here.
Yeah, I
Okay.
threw that in there for you because I was like, "Hey,
Yeah, I
Chicago
appreciate
gonna
that.
come. They gonna be in the comments
Yeah,
like, nah, that's ours."
yeah, and they should be proud of that too. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, like yeah, so you know I'm from Chicago and like born and raised in Chicago.
Mhm.
And like again, I don't want to go back too far away, but what started off as like I was at a pivotal point in my life.
Mhm.
I had been doing all kinds of things, trying to find the next step. Sorry, that's a little bit. All right.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I had been kind of looking for the next step. I was like teaching in Chicago for a few years, math
Mhm.
teacher and coaching, and I wanted to kind of like make a change. Didn't know what I wanted to do, so I kind of like stopped everything and went to like Ethiopia, which actually is Tigray now.
Yeah.
But back then I was going to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Went there, ended up staying there for a lot longer than I planned to.
Mhm.
Quit my job, stopped everything, came back months and months later and was like, all right, what's like the next step? Like, what do I need to do? Like, I'm like refocused. I was reading a bunch, just trying a few different things, and I, got into like tech, kind of like fell into it almost, right? Got into boot camp, and like I was just trying to do like whatever I could do, right? Like I didn't have
Yeah.
necessarily like a plan going for tech. I was just thinking like, am I gonna go back to university? Am I gonna go get another degree? Am I gonna get my master's in
Mhm.
teaching, or like what's like the next step? Went to boot camp, ended up liking what I was doing, found a job. Job was in LA, so flew here because of that. Didn't know anybody here, but from the time I spent in like Tigray, like being
Mhm.
around, I mean it's family, but it was my first time there, so I didn't know anybody. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the first time, the longest time I had been away from like family, friends, everything that I know from Chicago, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was like, I mean, it was like, yeah, it was like 6, 7 months, I think. And so I grew a lot when I was over there. Like
That's a
more than
big
anything I've done
move.
to that point,
Yeah.
yeah, I grew a lot. Um, so when I had the opportunity to go to LA, and I had two job offers. I had one in LA, one in Chicago, and I could have stayed in Chicago, but
Mhm.
I was like, man, I need to kind of get away because I saw how much I grew when I was in Tigray. So I was like, let me go ahead and like be somewhere where I don't know anybody. I don't know any. There's no family, there's no friends, and I can just kind of like grow into like grow more, right?
Yeah.
So moved to LA, started working. That was like January 2020.
Mhm.
Since then, it's been crazy. Like COVID's hit. Like Tigray genocide obviously was a big thing.
Yeah.
Still going on, still ongoing. So yeah, that's the story. I found myself in LA now.
That's so wild. There's so much in that, right? Like so much in that like we gotta like unpack because one, like if we're taking it back to even the decision to just kind of pause your life, right? Like let's just go back there because
Yeah,
you said you were teaching in first of all, I didn't realize you were a math teacher. My guy,
yeah,
why am I over
yeah.
here struggling with math when you could have been helping me this whole time?
I got you. I got you.
Bro, we gonna talk offline about this, but I'm just like, what, but it's okay. This I love learning new shit about people because I always need help with
Yeah,
something. So, this is good. So basically, you're teaching, which I think is one of the hardest jobs. Period. Because I feel like I'm
yeah,
a teacher in a lot of spaces, and it is not
yeah.
easy, right?
Not at all.
Um, and so you pause your life and like you're basically contemplating like, well, what the hell am I doing? Right? Like who am I? Who do I want to be? Is this it? Like, like that kind of like
Where's the
monologue.
money at? Like all of that. Yeah,
Like, what am I doing? Like, that's it. I got to the finish line because most of us got the blueprint of go to school, get a degree, get a job,
right.
get married, have kids. That's
Yeah,
it. Right? Like, there's nothing else after that. But it's like, okay, but that's only the beginning of your life. What the hell are you doing
yeah.
for the rest of it? Right? Like, there's
And
so
there's so
much.
much to it, like, and for a lot of people that doesn't work out. Like, at some point, things are gonna
Hmm.
fall apart, and it's kind of up to you. Like, when you're so tightly wound around this plan of like going to school,
Hmm.
graduating, getting a job, getting married, having kids, and like, rarely, if at all, is it ever like that simple, right? Like, things are
Hmm.
gonna happen. Your timelines are gonna be completely thrown off, right? Like, I
Yeah.
thought I'd be by 28 with two kids. Like when I was
Yeah.
18, like that's how I had envisioned it, right? And like it's easy to kind of like get down and like give up when you don't hit that milestone, right? Like, oh, I didn't
Oh yeah.
graduate this year, I didn't get this job, I didn't get paid this much money, I didn't find a or get married or find somebody significant,
Hmm.
by 28, or you didn't have kids by 30. Like, it's easy to kind of get down and kind of like get away from like the plan, right?
Yeah.
So
That's like that's just like so important because I've been trying to tell that to people. Like, you gotta let go of certain expectations, you know?
yes,
At some point, if the last couple years have not taught you that, I don't know what's gonna teach
yeah,
you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just like this constant reminder that we are in absolutely no control. You know what I mean? Like nothing. When the pandemic hit,
yeah,
we were in absolutely no control. And I think that's like the most terrifying thing for most of us to do, right? And like the way that we do it in the West is we just keep ourselves busy. You know what I mean? We got work, we got hella obligations. You're always busy, right? And so like
Yeah.
with the pandemic, you have all this time to be like in your own thoughts, and that's why, you know, a lot of people have not been doing so well,
Yeah.
right? And then we get, for us, we throw on a freaking genocide on top of that, and all of
Yeah.
us are just trying to keep our head on straight, you know?
Yeah.
And it's wild. So I think it's interesting because for lack of better terms, you've been handling yourself throughout this, right? Like we've been able to still show up and do the work and advocate,
Yeah.
and we're dealing with our private battles, right? But like by
Yeah.
and large, we're in a much better space. And I'm wondering if that has anything to do with the fact that you already had this kind of like, let me figure out life, like let me take this risk, let me go out and do this. And so you were already in flux, you know what I mean? Like you were already
Yeah.
in transition. Do you feel like that helped kind of like play a role in how you're managing?
A little bit, right? Because I think for a lot of people, like, you right now you might be living in the city that you grew up with. You might have
Hmm.
friends that you grew up with, or that you've been having, right? You
Hmm.
might be doing like the same job that you've had for years, right? Like, there's no change, right? Like for me,
Yeah.
like I obviously like I've been, even before moving out to LA, like, I was like in Tigray for a while, then I was in DC for like, because of the boot camp, I was there for a few months, like back and forth. Like I didn't have any kind of stability, which like is good and bad, right? Like stability is good, but at the same
Hmm.
time, like it was like bam, okay, like I quit this job, then I'm doing this, then I'm out of the country for some months. I'm back in the country, but I'm like, it's not like a stable thing, right? Because I'm like studying, kind of working whenever I can get a chance to get a few hours in, either
Yeah.
doing Uber or whatever I can get some money just to kind of like pay for certain things here and there, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then like now I'm back at my parents' house for a few months, so like I'm trying to adjust to that. And then I'm still flying out to different cities for like trainings and then like bam, all right, got a job, good paying job. I'm happy with it. About to be in LA. I get to LA like I've been in LA 2 years, right? This past year and some
Hmm.
some months, I've had my own apartment. I've been steady. I got stuff. Like, I'm good, right?
Hmm.
But all of 2020, right? Like I had three different apartments. I think like it's like every few
Damn.
months I was in a place. Yeah, because like I didn't know if I was gonna actually stay out here. Right, it was a brand new
Yeah.
job, brand new. And I didn't want to go ahead and like try to get an apartment, pay all this money, start buying furniture. If I was gonna be gone in like 3 months, or if I decided I didn't like
Hmm.
it, I want to go back to start teaching, or I want to end up going back to my other plan, which was just to go back to school and get a master's. Right,
Yeah.
I've been just like all over the place and don't get me wrong, it didn't feel like I was just like running around, but it wasn't like it's just like always a stage in flux, right?
Yeah.
So when COVID hit was like, bam, okay, like in a sense, it almost like helped me succeed in LA.
Mm.
Because had COVID not hit, like I would be commuting to the office. And if you know about LA traffic, that's like
Oof.
an hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half at night, trying to go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part of like moving to LA was like first, you don't know anybody here. You have to like, you know, uh, you're staying like I have my own place now, but when you first move to LA, like it's kind of hard. You have to have roommates.
Yeah.
So I'm like do my schedule where I'm cooking, doing all these things, but it's like in someone else's space. So it just
Yeah.
kind of felt weird, feel right. I'm commuting, and so when COVID hit, like the guy I had living with me, he disappeared.
Mhm.
So I had this whole place to myself. Like I wasn't commuting anymore. So it was just kind of like it was like the first time I felt like in a year and a half, 2 years where I could just kind of chill, calm down,
Mhm.
breathe, and like focus in on this one thing, which was like this brand new job, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then like, so, like, for me it actually like helped me calm down. So when the genocide started, like,
Mhm.
and everything, like the craziness started back up again in a sense, like it was a little bit easier like to handle and maintain. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like I still kind of got off of my purpose in a sense,
Yeah.
to kind of pivot over to do like stuff with this. But I don't know. I feel like it wasn't like, I see people who are like barely holding on. I kind of feel bad, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying they're doing great either. Like none of us really are. But you know, I would say I was able to kind of hold on to some kind of sense of like normalcy, and still
Mhm.
able to kind of do what I need to do. despite all the crazy things that were happening to us, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a lot. And so it's like, I think because I was also in flux, right? So like I parallel a lot of your story of,
Yeah.
like, um, ironically enough, I was supposed to be an ID. Like I graduated in 2019, right?
Yeah.
With my master's. So I had your whole like dilemma, I had already had it. Like it had
Yeah.
like that happened a couple
Yeah.
years earlier for me. um it comes at different stages for people, right? And I wouldn't say that's even my first one. Like I had one before that too.
Yeah.
And
I had a bunch too. Yeah, I definitely had a bunch too before that. Yeah.
yeah, like let's be honest, I think that's really gonna
Right.
save some people. It's okay. You might pivot
Yeah.
a few times in your life,
Yeah.
right? You might need to. And I think that it's cool though what we're talking about is because there's certain questions that we like tend to ask each other, right? Like or
Right.
ourselves, like, what am I doing? What do I want to do? Am I really happy? And you start
Yeah.
asking yourself
Yeah.
these questions if you know the language, right? If you know how to be
Yeah.
reflective that way. And you kind of make these moves. And I remember I was supposed to go to Adi, but I was like, hey, I want to kind of travel and do my own thing for a couple months, and then I had planned to go. So the week that I was supposed to go to Adi was my birthday,
Yeah.
and it was also the week that everyone went on lockdown for quarantine. And at the time, it was just like, do I go? Do I stay? Because like I had never in my life heard borders are closing. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, like you don't know when they're gonna open back up. So if you go somewhere,
Yeah.
you might be stuck there. And
Yeah.
at the time I had never spent that much time back there. So I was just like, I don't know if I want to get stuck there during
Yeah.
a pandemic, but also my goal of going was to travel throughout Africa. And I was like, well, if
Yeah.
I can't travel around, what's the point? I'm just going to sit there for six
Yeah.
months. I might as well sit here for 6 months,
Yeah.
in my comfort, like doesn't make sense. So I made a different decision. And I'm glad because the border was closed. Like it was just
Yeah.
like it was
Yeah.
a lot of issues. And I remember like it was the hardest time, like people trying to get back and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I dodged
Yeah.
that. And it all of that to say, like, we had similar things where we tried to go somewhere or we trying to answer this question this way, and then life throws something else at you and it's like, oh, okay, well, I was already pivoting anyway, so I guess let me
Yeah.
figure out like what else I want to do. Right? So it's like we gotta like keep just trying to figure things out as we go. And I think it's beautiful to like just be able to be honest about that. Like, this is not where
Yeah.
I thought I would be. Like, I'm happy now, right? But like I
Which is
wasn't
good.
at
Right?
first. Like,
Yeah. Which is good.
yeah. And there was something else you mentioned in that about like you kind of felt like you fell off of your purpose, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to like dig a little there if you're okay with what was that process like? What do you know, like figuring out what your purpose was? Was that pre being a teacher? Was that post, like in your trip back home? Like
Yeah.
what was that journey like?
So in terms of purpose, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I have like different purposes, right? Like,
Okay.
of course, there's like your overarching purpose, right?
Mhm.
Um, and like to be honest, like you know, like during that teaching phase, like I kind of like didn't have a specific purpose, right? I
Yeah.
thought I had one, and again, like you said, we've pivoted multiple times, right?
Mhm.
So like, at a undergrad, I didn't go and like, yeah, I'm gonna go study teaching. I'm gonna be a teacher. Like I'm gonna go ahead and that'll be my thing. Like nah, I did all kinds of random shit. Like excuse me, like I did all kinds of random stuff for a while, right? For
Mhm.
years, and then I kind of fell into teaching in a sense. I liked it a lot, and so I was
Yeah.
like, man, my purpose, cool. I'm about to be like the best teacher slash cross country track coach, and like I'll just like focus on kids and building up the community, and work with like Habesha kids and whatever, right? Like I felt like that was like my purpose, right?
Yeah.
As I got deeper into it, because I think I did that for a few years, and as I got deeper into it, I was like, I don't really like it's not like where I see myself, and I still like cared about like working with children and doing all that stuff, but I was like,
Mhm.
being a teacher working for like public school system is not the way. Like unfortunately, it's just not the way,
Yeah.
right? So from there, I obviously had to like pivot, I left the country and all that stuff. It was my first time being in Ethiopia or Tigray, right? Like first
Mhm.
time ever. I've never been there prior to that, right?
Mhm.
So like this like completely changed everything about who I am as a person to the core, and
Mhm.
like the sense of purpose and my idea of purpose, right? Like that changed,
Yeah.
right? So prior to that, like I always had these like smaller purposes, right, which have been consistent and constant, right? Like financial freedom, take care of the family, right? Like retire my parents, like that's been consistent, right? And that hasn't changed, and that's still the case today, right?
Mhm.
But then like these bigger purposes of like what is like the life's goal, right? What was that, right? So okay, like uplifting kids in my city, being a coach, like you know, it was all revolving around that, right?
Mhm.
When I went to Tigray, I was like, oh no, like I gotta change it all up. Like there's so much more like to this world, to my world that I didn't even know
Mhm.
about. So then that purpose became like cool. Like I need to do something in Tigray, right? Like and man, honestly, I had went for a month. It turned into like 6 or 7 months, and the idea was to not leave. Actually, like like my dad convinced me to come back, but like when I was there, I was like, "Ah, Dad, like skip this, like bump it. I'm done. Like I'll
Mhm.
see y'all, visit y'all for Christmas, but I'm not coming back. Like I'm good. I'm happy here. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm about to
Yeah.
build a life here. I'm about to help the people here. I'm about to teach math or whatever, English or whatever, and just do whatever I can to serve people here because I was so happy there, right?
Yeah.
It just was a life that I just didn't even know about, family I didn't even know about, good people, like people that look like you know what I mean? Like you just feel comfortable, right? So
Mhm.
I was like, I'm never leaving, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that became like my purpose in that moment, right? My dad eventually convinced me. He was like, "Look, you can do a lot right now, but you can do even more if you come back and then like plan for it and go back. You'll have more money, you
Mhm.
have a better idea because you've been there, so you know people, you know like resources. You'll know what you need to do here in America to go ahead and take it back over there." So I was like, I think he was playing with me. I mean, he wasn't playing with me, but he was trying to manipulate me to come back because he was like, "You need to come back here and do what you need to do." You know what I mean? So I was
Yeah.
like, all right. I was like, that makes sense. So I came back to America at that point and started trying to figure out like what I could do here that would benefit there, which is one of the reasons why I chose tech. I got into BootCamp and chose IT is because it's an easily transferable thing where you can go into any country and you can actually like serve, right?
Mhm.
So my purpose became like Tigray, like helping out Tigray, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, and that's still like a main purpose, right? And if anything, what's happened these past couple of years, especially in terms of what's happening in Tigray and the war and the genocide, it's just like strengthening that resolve, that purpose. So now I feel like my main purpose is like developing, Tagadu, right?
Mm.
And it's shifted a little bit where now it's like I understand the purpose of actually developing the community here in America, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have a strong Tagadu community, like a diaspora community, it's like tenfold if like for example I just went back and I just started like working with like the people in Tigray, right? Which
Mhm.
that's still the plan, right? But if I could develop the community here in LA, in Chicago, in America, I mean whatever, like even out of this country, like just diaspora community in general,
Yeah.
if we develop that community, like that's 1,000 of me going to Tigray and doing something, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a stronger. So when I realized that, I'm like, cool, all right, cool. Like now, and by the way, I didn't know Habesha's people, period. You know, like I never really messed with any Habesha people like that. Like just we like moved from Chicago, we grew up in the suburbs, like for high school. So we kind of lost contact. We didn't go to church, and it's unfortunate, but we really didn't know people like that, right?
Mhm.
So like I didn't really think about like strengthening the community in America. I'm thinking about like Tigray, right? But now
Yeah.
that I connect with all of you guys, I realize like, oh no, I'm right here right now. Like we all know each other. Like it's time to build up this community, financially, mentally, educationally, socially, emotionally, whatever. Right? Just like strengthen the community, right?
Yep.
And then like just watch us go ahead and like tenfold help Tigray, right? So I'll say like now like that's like my main purpose in life, and then like but again, still financial freedom is still like a big thing that I always I'm like
Listen,
push
me too.
self development in general, right? Like just being a better version of yourself every single day, right? That's still a big purpose of myself, my life.
Oh, that's a bar. Be a
Yeah,
better version of yourself every day. I need people to like
every,
write that down, keep
every
that
day.
with you, like every day. No, because honest to God, that's the work, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is the actual work of like going after your dream, like, or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? So it didn't matter. I don't think that your purpose really shifted. I felt like your purpose really stayed in like being of service to others, right? Like for you, it was just like like what I was hearing is like my life is more meaningful when I'm able to give back and impact others, and like, or that you
yeah,
felt more fulfilled in that. And because I
yeah,
share that too, right? Like that's why, we have Uprooted. That's why I love orgs
yeah,
like To Gotta Rebuild Tigray, because
yeah,
you're doing the same work of like, how do we build a community? I'm focusing on mental emotional, right? But there's also other projects I want to be a part of. And it's cool when I get to
yeah,
see you guys do it. But it is the work every day. You have to choose to be a better person and you have to work at it. And it's like, oh, I had a bad day today. Okay, but I still got to be a better person tomorrow. Right.
yeah.
Like, and it's that daily mental discipline of like, I don't want to
Not
today.
easy. It's
Yeah.
not easy. Yeah, it's not. And like we were talking about this like a few days ago. We had a phone conversation. Like
Hmm.
it's not easy, man. Like I say these things, and I know some people might see me like, oh man, sometimes he's doing good. Like he's got money. He's like, he's always like focused and working, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He sounds sure of himself. I'm
Hmm.
not even close. Like you know what I mean? Like there's some certain strengths that I have that I'm very proud of that I've built up, and
Hmm.
I'm doing very well in, right?
Hmm.
There's so many areas like that I'm not, and one thing we talked about a few days ago was when all this thing happened with specifically Tigray, because
Yeah.
man, COVID was something, but it didn't knock me from anything that I was doing purpose wise. Like
Yeah.
nah, if anything, it made me like stronger and like deeper into what I was doing, right?
Hmm.
The Tigray shit, man, that's what really like knocked me kind of off course and like kind of really like got in my way. And so like it's not easy. I'm talking about it now, like yeah, my purpose, I've been on it for years. Like those
Yeah.
were a rough like few years, right? Like I stopped, I got hung up, I got turned around, I went backwards,
Hmm.
I start over. I mean, like there's so many things, and even like all of 2020, I mean, I won't say it was a wash, but
Yeah.
like like that, I mean 2020, or sorry, 2022 rather, 2020 or
What year are
2021.
we in? 2021, last year.
Yeah,
I
it's
know,
yeah,
I know. It's what
yeah.
happens when it's the beginning of the year. We can't keep shit
No,
straight.
like these, yeah, and these years kind of flew by. COVID and Tigray genocide years flew by, but 2021, like it almost was just like a blur, right? Like
Mhm.
all of 2020, I was getting stronger and stronger, like more and more focused, more and more into my purposes, right?
Yep.
And then like 2021 hit, well, the end of 2020, right, November 2020, and everything just like changed, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like and not just me, everybody had to put everything on hold, right? And I still was trying to put a little bit of time towards like just developing my purpose and like getting
Yeah.
better every day. But that's not what happened. Like for the most part, I mean, of course, like I didn't regress,
Hmm.
but like it almost was like being stagnant, you know.
You know
Um,
what? I would rephrase it. I will push back there a little bit, right? Because I have been struggling with that too. Because
yeah,
that's the other thing, right? Me and you really connect on this idea of self-development, right? Personal
yeah,
development.
yeah,
And what that work looks like. That work looks like look at yourself in the mirror, being honest about
yeah,
where your shortcomings are, right?
yeah,
Taking accountability for the work you're not putting in, when you're
yeah,
not getting the results you want, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And we really align there. And I think because we're so used to like going at like a pace, right? Like we're always
yeah,
into something, we're kind of moving, we're always kind of pivoting and trying things. But I think 2020, because right, I started Uprooted too,
yeah,
during that, like that was my pivot. I was like, I can't go to ID no more. I'm chilling. And like,
yeah,
it had been a bug in my ear for a while. Like people are like, why don't you do a show? My cousin, all that stuff. And I was like, okay, like whatever. So here I was with all this, time now to do it. And they're like, what's your excuse, right? So we have like these things, but I feel like 2020 with us like kind of just diving into it and doing our work, really doing our work and taking the time, really prepared us for 2021. Even though like that war kind of knocked us off, like we might not have felt like we were progressing, but like all the work we did in 2020 is what helped us survive 2021, you know? Like,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I don't think it was a wash. It was like a test. Like, oh, you think you good? Okay. Like that's what I felt like. I felt like every month we were coming back into the ring. You know what I mean? That's really how I see life, you know, because like in my mind, I'm really into this idea of resilience. So like I'm like, nah, you could fall, but how you get back up matters.
Like that
Right?
resilience.
You know?
I
Like,
like
and
that.
that's the very Tagaru thing, right? Like
Yeah.
resilient as hell. Like just as much as we get the trauma and the hurt and the pain, right?
Yeah.
We get the strength, we get the resiliency, we get the
Yeah.
mental fortitude, right? We get those things too if you know how to use them, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
me and you were in that boat of people who learned how to use that. We learned how
Yeah.
to like use our self-care things. We learned how to like, oh, okay, well, we kind of gotta like kind of time manage, right? And we're so used to working on projects and doing things that we naturally started picking up work, right?
I was
And
gonna
like,
say, do you feel like it's second nature almost? Like
yeah.
just off the habits that you built over so many
Oh
years,
yeah.
kind of, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah. I was like, thank God all them damn affirmations are kicking in because like what? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? I used to look at people crazy. Do you remember the first time somebody
Yeah.
told you to do an affirmation?
Yeah. Like, is that magic? Are you casting spells or whatever at the mirror? Like, what's going on? Like,
Bro,
you
talk
know?
about it, bro. Do you remember what your first affirmation was? That's kind of a random question, but
Yeah, that is. There was
or
one that I always say, and I think this is like I don't say it anymore because I don't need to say it anymore. But there
mm-hmm.
was one that was like, "I am enough," and I don't know if that was my first one, but that was like one of the ones where it's like a constant, like, "I am enough, I am enough, I am enough." Like,
Yeah.
because like, yeah, I think it was like a big theme growing up where it was like, "Ah, man, I'm not the tallest, I'm not the best looking, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the richest." Like, and especially because like I actually have a lot of like successful friends, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
not in the Habesha community, but like outside of this community, I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of successful. I mean, even actually in the Habesha community, right? Like, a lot of people that I was close with, man, they're like they were in med school, and I'm over here like doing real estate and doing all this stuff, which none of these are bad jobs, but like for me, it wasn't like 100% in. So I'm over here selling insurance. I'm doing a leasing, and I'm like just all these like and delivering groceries, like trying to kind of find out where I fit, right? Whereas like my friends are in med school. This
Yeah.
one is in farm school. This one is doing. I mean, this one's got his own business already, and he's already grossing like $1 million. I'm like, dang, like,
Yeah.
and it was like early 20s, and it was just like, yo, like I'm enough, right? Like I'm gonna get there. It's cool. Like let me not
Yeah.
look at what they're doing, and let me not realize, oh shoot, I'm 26 and I'm not married yet. Oh my god, like life is over. You know what I mean?
That's the truth. You preaching.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
did you peep my face getting real big when you said it?
yeah, yeah. I do. Yeah,
I don't know, like, like I just feel very loved by my maker
yeah.
today because I've had very serendipitous moments today. Um
What's up?
and I had like really horrible news this morning. So like I'm taking
Sorry.
all the little miracles. Yeah. Um but basically why I said that is guess what affirmation I have on my bathroom mirror?
I am enough.
Yes.
Hey, okay.
I have it on my mirror. See, I knew we were gonna be
Yeah,
friends. Even though you tried to play
yeah.
with me in the beginning, you tried to diss me. I'm over here trying to show you
Uh,
love. You over here like, well, oh, I thought you wouldn't recognize me. Da-da-da. Like whatever, like all of that. And
People need to know.
look at this
Yo,
because
people need to know every time we see each other, which if you go to protest ends up being a lot more often than you thought, right?
yeah.
Yo, Hanna comes up to me like, yo, like, you remember that time when we first met and you did me bogus? And I'm like, oh my God, it wasn't me. Like, So,
But I'm
yeah.
nicer now because I'll be like, it's okay. So now you're my favorite person,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I know you could take it, but I just have to give you a hard time because not everybody can say that. Not everybody say they can hold
Yeah.
me. Okay, you hoved me when you were getting hoved, and I was just like, damn, that's crazy. But if you ever needed a reminder to stay humble, that was it. You feel
Thank
me?
you. Yeah. Thank you. Right.
It's like, damn. But what I will say is that's crazy because I distinctly remember when I started saying that affirmation, that was
Yeah.
a pivotal change in my life too, and I didn't know I needed it, right? Because you're like me, right? We'll watch interviews, we're like
Yeah.
looking at thought leaders, we're trying to figure
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
how the world, like I feel like me and you do the same thing where we're trying to figure out how the world works and we're like,
Yeah.
oh, that method seems like that one's gonna work. So we'll do that and we'll just keep trying things, right? And we'll experiment. And like not everyone's willing to experiment. Not everyone's willing to kind of
Right.
um
Yeah.
feel their way out through shit. And the person who put me onto that was or no, not the person. I was on YouTube and I can't remember what show it was on. I think it was Lewis, Lewis Howe, is it House? What's his show? Um
Uh,
if I remember it, I'll link it in the description. But
mm,
he does this podcast with all the great like influential people you can think of, right? And super dope. And he had this psychiatrist therapist on. Her name's Marissa Peer, right?
yeah.
It's Peer, and her whole therapeutic practice is based off this idea that fundamentally as humans, everything goes back to this feeling of not feeling like we're enough.
Hmm.
And so that's
Interesting.
where that affirmation came from. And
Yeah.
like she was like, put it on your mirror. And she was like, put it on with some red lipstick, be dramatic. I did exactly that because I follow directions, right? I'm a fucking follow directions if I'm gonna do anything, right? And I put on my mirror, I was like, this is weird. This is weird, but I feel like this is gonna work. And took a while, but now I be looking at it like, yeah, girl, of course you would know. What the fuck you talking about? you know? And then I will move on with my day. Like I'll look in the mirror, I'm like, ooh, you're not cute today, but you're still enough, girl. You just gotta keep it pushing because the
Yeah. It's
world
got
will
to.
convince you, right? Like everything. If you think about it, like even
Yeah.
fundamentally what it means, right? What is like that feeling of not enough mean is that there's
Yeah.
rejection on the other side of that,
Yeah.
right? And like as
Yeah.
human beings, who likes rejection? Nobody likes rejection. It doesn't feel good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like like nobody likes that. So yeah, I thought that was fucking ironic. So
And
well,
I hope people
look at us
that
being
sees
friends.
like the writing on the mirror, like, I think like people come to my apartment and they're like, oh, this excuse me, this guy's crazy. I gotta catch myself. I don't know if this is like a PG show or not,
No,
but
you're good. You're
wow.
good.
Okay,
There,
okay. But
it's not. I mean, if they
because
watch,
when we
the
talk like,
parent description, but I don't ever put it on the kids.
yeah,
It's not the kid friendly version. No.
well, just in case, because like when me and Hannah talk, like we're just cooling it, and I'm not even thinking about like
hmm
being appropriate or anything like that. But then I'm like, oh
Yeah.
wait, this is recording.
No,
Let me
you're
be cool,
good.
right? Like,
You're good. You're
but
good.
yeah, like it's just funny because like literally like people come over to my apartment, right? And they'll go to the bathroom and then they'll like look at the mirror and they're like, oh, this dude's crazy. Like Sunay's like he's got a screw loose. And I just got like everything. My mirror is like, and most of it is like affirmations or just like things to remember, right?
hmm
Like you said, like I am enough, right?
Yeah.
Or like, okay, keep progressing, or progress is happiness. Just like little phrases, right? Like, so every
hmm
time I'm in the bathroom, however many times a day, I just get to read that, and it's just like reinforcing in my head, right? And like, it's cool to hear you say that because I don't think you've ever told me that before.
I don't
But
think so.
like,
No, we haven't
yeah,
had this
it
conversation.
works. It
Yeah.
works. Like, it just like, and sometimes you don't even pay attention that it's there, but you are actually like, you're looking at
Mhm.
yourself in the mirror, getting ready every morning, and it's like it's there, and you might not like actually be consciously reading it,
Yeah.
right? But just having it there makes such a big difference,
Oh yeah, like you can't really peep it, but like on the whiteboard behind me, I have a post-it
Yeah,
note that has an affirmation.
yeah,
Um, like I have the one on the mirror, but I have a post-it note on the side of it that has another one.
yeah,
I have another post-it note on the other mirror, so when I'm getting ready, I have another affirmation there. Like I
yeah.
have them, yeah, I have them in little places because I also remember. I don't know if you remember that show, Being Mary Jane, on
Oh, I do.
BT.
Yeah, Yeah.
And remember, she used to put all her affirmations all around her house, and I was like, "Oh, I need a clear glass like thing in my house so I could put those." I was like, "That looks so convenient. Like you got just your notes all in one place, right?" Or just sporadically around. But no, it's really important, and I think that like the first time I heard affirmations, I was like, "You mean all I got to do is talk nice to myself? That's it?" Like, you know what I mean? It
That's
sounded like really
Yeah.
hoo-ha. But
Yeah.
when you understand the psychology behind it, right, is all day long you're getting messaging from marketing agencies that are spending billions of dollars to make you feel like you're not enough. Why? Because when you don't feel good about yourself, what do? You go shopping, you eat, you go entertain yourself, you trying to drown out the noise, drugs, whatever, you going to the club, all of those things. There's no judgment, we all do it, right?
Yeah.
But the lower your self-esteem, the easier it is to manipulate you and to like get you to like, be addicted to those cycles. And I think that is where like, the affirmations help, because you're changing the wiring of your brain to like be taking positive messaging and like go towards the things that you want instead of the stuff that you don't want. And like you notice it over time, right? That like we don't even tune into negative shit anymore, right? Like,
no, not at all. Like, I mean, well, I won't say not at all, but like for the most part, like, there's like no negative shit. Like, no, for the most part, no news. Like, I'm not telling people to completely unplug, because it's important to know what's happening. Like, if there's a tornado outside, you should know about that, right? Like, but in general, like everything that you're consuming, right, whether it's a necessity or not, you have to understand that it's affecting you in some manner, right?
Yeah.
And the affirmations, man, like I told you, I thought it was like, oh, I gotta just like say these spells in the mirror, like Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, flush the toilet, like I'll be healed, like, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
But I read a book, and I think it was Think or Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It was either that or I don't know. I might have been that book, but what they talk about is like these aren't like, this is not like some magic BS. Like it's like psychology, like you said, psychology. It's like science based stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So when I realized like that was the case, I didn't feel bad, because I'm a chemistry minor and a math major, right? Like, so I need
Super
to see
smart.
the numbers, the statistics, see the research. I can't over here be doing some kind of pseudoscience or whatever, right? But when I found out that this is actually like, it's actually like a proven thing, I was like, oh, it was easier to do it. And then once I did it, I'm like, oh, it actually works, right? And so like, I just want people to know, like, I'm not just saying some stuff where it's like you go in the mirror like, I'm great, yes, like, you start saying it, but when you say something over and over and over again, you actually start to do stuff that like reinforces that idea, right? If you think you're weak, you're not going to go and try to lift something because you're like, I can't even do it.
Yeah,
And that
yourself
in your brain, knowing something is impossible, or like knowing something is impossible, is going to stop you from doing it, right? Like people couldn't run a 4-minute mile for generations, right?
Oof.
All of a sudden, a person did it, and then all of a sudden, everybody's doing it. Now every little high school or collegiate athlete can run a 4-minute mile. It's like no big deal.
Yeah.
But the thing was, people like believed they could, like it was impossible. So when you think something is impossible, and that's just where the affirmations come in. So I just want people to know it's not magic. It's actually a thing, So don't knock it before you try it,
Yeah, no, you said something really powerful in that, because where your mind goes, you follow, right? And what you're talking about is kind of just this: when you tell yourself you can't, then you won't. And that's really how it works. It's like, oh, you told your brain, because your brain takes whatever you say as fact, right? Like unless you tell it like, no, this is a joke, like, and even then it's hard, right? Like your brain will just take it in and just kind of record it. And and if you don't counteract that with something, then you're just gonna keep falling down. You're gonna keep making the same mistakes, and so you get to that point. That's how I can tell when somebody's been on the journey for a long time, because we're the type of people they're like, we got to listen to like low vibration, you know, like we're those
Yeah.
people like, nah, we on the lo-fi playlist, we on the
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
like
Yes.
soul and R&B. I don't like, oh nope, that's too
Yeah.
hype. I'm sorry, that's a lot of energy over there. We
Yeah.
be talking in frequency. We're like, that energy over there
People
was
sleep
real.
on it too.
Yeah, like because
Yeah.
you tap into it. You're so
Yeah.
hyper aware at some point.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like anything's happening at first. And I know that's why a lot of people will give up, but it takes 30
Yeah.
days to create any new habit, right? So you got to give
Yeah.
yourself time. Why do you think they always
Yeah.
give you a 30-day trial? You know?
Yeah.
Because at that point
Yeah.
you just adapted to it. That's fucking
Yeah.
psychology, bro. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, guys. Like, really and truly, don't think most of the time people are not doing it for your benefit. Like, they're doing it because they're trying to get something out of you. But that's
Yeah.
a whole other story.
Yeah.
Ooh, I do want to be hella respectful of your time because we were definitely over. I wanted to, you know how this goes. You watch the show. I wanted to
Yes.
ask you, with all this purpose, with all the things that you're doing, and you're really on it, and I'm really impressed with just your ability to like
Thank
even
you. Appreciate it.
get back
Yeah.
on it, right? Like every time we
Yeah.
fall, we like get back up, and that's really where the magic is. I'm wondering now, what is it, Senai, that you want your legacy to be?
Yeah. No. So, like you said, I've been watching the show for now it's over a year, which is crazy to even think about, right? Like
Mhm,
that I've known you and so many other Tagado in this community for over a year, right? Like,
mhm.
and every time I hear you ask, your guest that question, I'm like, damn, what would I say? Um, I think like in more general terms,
Mhm.
my legacy, I want my legacy to be, I want people to remember that like, oh, he was here for people, like you said, like service, right?
Yeah.
Um, so whatever, in whatever capacity, it doesn't necessarily need to be like specifically for Tigray or for kids or whatever, but just in general, like he came like ready to serve, right? For whatever people needed,
Mhm.
right? Whether they needed it into like some IT stuff, or they
Yeah.
needed financial advice, right? Like I try to always remember because you know how it is when you ask somebody for something and
Yeah.
they're just like because they know it, right? Like they have the experience or they have the or they have the knowledge and or the wisdom, but they can't be bothered, right?
Yeah.
And I've been there. I've been on the other side, and I just always like whenever someone needs something, I try to remember, okay, cool, like they need something. Let me not be stingy with my time, right?
Yeah.
Even sometimes at the expense of myself, right? So I think that's in the most general terms that, right? Like, um, and then in more specific terms, multi millionaire,
You
right?
better
Like
talk it. You better speak it.
Becky Ade,
Nah,
like
you better hit it
into
with a B. You better
like
hit it with a B. We talking about billions.
billions.
Yeah.
Billion, right? Like, I've got a lot of years ahead of me and it's a lot of years to work and to multiply and, for compounding interest to really hit. So, like, there's a lot of time. And if you don't know what compounding interest is, look it up. But yeah, so that's obviously a little more specific and that's more of like my personal goals. And then, obviously I really want to build up Tigray. I want to create like, millions of millionaires, right? Like Tagaru,
Mm-hmm.
millionaires, right? And I want that money to not trickle, but flow into Tigray. And I want us to have like this strong economy. And everyone talks about the Jews and Armenians and whatever. Like that's great. I want it to be our own thing, so people can look back and be like, we need to do what the Tagadus are doing. The Tigrayans are doing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want us to be standard for what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I want the legacy to be in general and specific terms.
I love that. I'm telling you, this is always my favorite part of the show. So like people are like, how do you keep it genuine?
It is,
I'm like,
yeah.
what do you mean? It's so easy. When you actually like want to see
Yeah.
people win, it's the easiest part of the show to do. You know? Like
Man, I like literally like we had we had an appointment to do a show like months ago. I think in October, November. I don't even remember when, but it was like months
Mhm.
ago. And man, I was stressed, I was sweating, and I was like, when she asks me the legacy part, I don't know what to say. Like, oh my god. So it just like feels good. Like I actually did a show with you, and I got
Oh,
I knew what to say. Like who like You know what I'm
This
saying?
guy,
Like,
stop it tonight. I'm crying. No. Listen, I kind of said it in the beginning, so I'm not gonna like belabor it, but like, no, you're really one of my favorite people. Like, you're always like, I'm not saying you're always having a good day, right? Like, that's not true, right? Sometimes you're
yeah,
having a bad day, but like, I always,
yeah,
I can always feel you're trying to be a good person, you know?
yeah. Thank you. I
Like, I
appreciate
can genuinely feel that from you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I noticed, and maybe you haven't seen this in yourself, so I'll just be a mirror for you right now, is like, you like, even if you're having a bad day, you don't want to be the reason somebody else is,
Yes,
you know?
consciously. By the way,
Yes. And I see
yeah,
it. I see it
yeah.
every time, and, like, cause you know, Auntie Tab will say that. I don't know if you follow Tabitha Brown on, IG. She is so fucking hilarious, right? And she'll be like, "And now y'all know," because she says her quote at the end of the day, "You go ahead and have yourself a good day, but if you can't, don't you go messing up nobody else's." Right?
I
And I'm like, Senai
love
is
that.
like the living proof
I
of that.
love that.
Yes,
Yeah, I love
like,
that. It's
I
it's
see it
it
all
really
the
is
time.
conscious too. I can't, man. I pet peeve of mine, by the way. Somebody else's, like, somebody ruined your day, and now you're gonna ruin my day. Like, nah.
Yes,
Like, yeah.
and you
But
move that way, right? Like,
yeah,
you, and I can see it and I
I'm
can
glad.
sense
I'm
it.
glad that yeah. I'm glad that like that comes through.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's why I'm like, I can always be around you because I know you're not gonna
Yeah.
try to hurt me. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's as real as it gets. Like, there's a lot of hurt people right now,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
are sharing that pain widely. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when you meet somebody like Senai, right? And this is me talking to the audience, is like, you gotta see that's gold, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's gold. Like, I don't really care about money like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, no, I attract abundance because it's a tool. Money is a tool.
Yeah.
Like, I had to rewire my thinking about money, you know? And I was like, no,
Yeah.
money is a tool. It comes and it goes. You have access to it, right? And it just depends, what are you trying to use it for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you use it
Yeah.
for good, then money is good. If you use it for bad, money is bad, right? Like, that's how
Yeah.
people think. And it's like, no, you are the person using the money. So it's you making the good or bad decision, right? And
Yeah.
I see that, right? I don't operate in that currency. That currency doesn't matter. I don't care if you have a dollar or a million, right? Like, how you treat other people is how I judge you, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think because that's how I operate, I usually have a pretty good judge of character. So I wouldn't have stuck around, or I wouldn't let you really be my friend like that. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, if I didn't think you were a dope guy. And of course I gotta, like, poke a little bit of fun just cause. But really and truly, I hope that people hear you and understand that you're just such a dope person and can
Yeah.
be really a valuable, like, friend, right? And
Oh,
asset to the community. And I hope that people can see that and appreciate you, because I do, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate our
yeah.
friendship. So I hope you always feel that from me. And yeah, that's good.
And likewise, like, I'm not even gonna try to reciprocate because I can't outdo you, But just know, like, it goes both ways. Like, you know what I mean? It definitely goes both ways. So, and I know you be trying to have people like tear up on your podcast, and I'm not going for it. But when we cut the cameras off, best know that that's when I'll go ahead and do that. Okay?
Okay, no worries. We about to end right here. Don't worry. We are done. We are over time, y'all. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Yes.
hanging in this, and that you were so amazing. Y'all,
Thank
that is
you.
Black Men Speak Sundays. This is the Uprooted Network. Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day.